Falcha, Falcha, you are very welcome to another episode of Mind Your Precious Self. And the topic for this evening is personal pampering. It might seem quite innocuous. It might seem, well, maybe it's not the most serious topic, but actually underlying are many important principles. I think the key word here is personal, while pampering may seem almost a little frivolous. Ismisha, Dr. Karen Ward. My name is Karen Ward, and I'm very happy to bring this subject alive, but most importantly, to gift you ways to embrace personal pampering with a new perspective. Pampering is an interesting word, and for many, it might seem almost a sensuousness that is a luxury as opposed to something that is a necessity. Self care means so many things to so many different people. And we have to look back to history, to our mothers, to our grandmothers, even to our great grandmothers, to maybe see why this might not come so easily to some, or indeed why others perhaps overcompensate. Let me explain. Back in the day, here on this island of Ireland, and of course around the world, women's lives were difficult. As the caregiver to the children, as the bearer of children, and as the one who mostly put the food cooked onto the table. And the menfolk had their traditional roles out to bring the money in to put literally the food on the table. But the sanitary conditions were not necessarily there. There was poverty, there was war, there was famine, there was economic situations. So you can imagine that self-care and anything like pampering was way down the priority list when we think of survival. And in fact, there's a very interesting hierarchy of needs that humans have. And of course, food, water, sleep, safety, they all come way, way before we move up to the looking after ourselves in a holistic way. And yet, we can only be Superman and Wonder Woman for a certain amount of the time. We cannot be that all the time. And this is a really important point. Survival mode necessitates back in the day, but we live in a very different world now. And sometimes, yes, we're overwhelmed with what's going on. Yes, we might feel anxious or depressed or any of those emotions that are human, the sadness, the grief. But woven into that is a need, a palpable need for us as humans to care for ourselves and to care for ourselves in a way that's personal. So, what might work for you might not work for me, and what might work for another woman might not work for you. Personal is important. So, let's have a little look. I mean, if we take the body first, I'm sure you'll agree that when you think of the word pampering, there are lots of fabulous ways to pamper our bodies. We could be painting our nails, we might be doing our hair, it might be the clothes that we wear. And for me, I know I am very much a long soak in a luxurious aromatherapy bath type gal. For others, it's the power shower. And there's a good example of how, for one person, it's the bath, and for another, it's the shower. But if we move to the mind and to the soul, well, then we might have to think a bit about where personal pampering might come in there. But before we move off the body, what is important is to look after ourselves in a way that has, shall we say, an extra benefit. So while you're doing your nails, you could say, well, there's a little bit of creativity there. It's pampering, but also you're looking after your hands if it extends to a full manicure, and the same with your feet if it's a pedicure. If you're doing your hair, well, most of us wash our hair frequently, so why not decide to plait it or tie it up a different way or experiment with the color? So that might bring a little bit of a lift. Any hairdresser will tell you that when particularly women folk come in, but hey, it's universal to all humans, and they go out with their locks glossy and fresh and cut, that it gives such a boost. And we've all discovered that in a time where we couldn't go to the hairdressers, there was a little bit of maybe not a bounce in our step as we might have had beforehand. So that's one example. Our skin is the largest organ in our body. I'm going to say that again. Our skin is the largest organ in our body. We don't really think about that. We might assume, oh gosh, I imagine the liver is quite big, or the heart, or the lungs. But if you think about it, beautiful skin that encases, that encloses our very soul, the essence of who we are. And we don't necessarily look after it as much as we could. Now, a lot of it is down to genetics. Some people are predisposed to dry skin or oily skin, but massage and its effects are legendary. And we often assume that we need to go to a massage therapist, which is wonderful. But there's so much we can do ourselves, particularly with our breasts, very personal part of our body, particularly with our nether regions. And these are ways of pampering ourselves after our bath or our shower, which we keep clean with, but that we can add in those beautiful aromatherapy oils or creams or gels, and to befriend our body. There's bound to be parts we love and bound to be parts we don't love. But it's lovely to actually celebrate those parts of our body in this way. I'd like to move on now to pampering our mind. Now, again, you're probably smiling to yourself thinking, how do you pamper your mind? Well, exactly. And if you can't even connect the two, then does that say that you're not doing it? Well, maybe you are, but you don't realize it. So, for example, I absolutely love reading books. I am a big bibliophile, as they call it. And I definitely inherited that from my grandfather and my mother, my aunt, and one of my sisters as well. We're mad into books. They're always, and for me, it gives me solace. It gives me time out. So if I'm reading a book and I'm glued into it, I might go, oh, so I'm not in Paris, which is what the book is about. Oh, I'm in Dublin, or I'm on holidays, or wherever I am. And I become so comforted and inspired by the characters in the book, but also it gives my brain a rest because I'm focused on the characters in the book. Now, equally, I could be at a film. Again, I'm a big theatre and film head. Musical theatre is my delight, but it offers me an opportunity to sit, rest my body, and my mind is transported, pampered, if you will, by the actors on the stage in the film or the characters in the book. I'm sure you'll have heard that there are many who really love to play bridge, to play cards, or to play bingo, Sudoku, these type of games. Now, I suppose bridge definitely and bingo have a very social element in community. Something like Sudoku or a crossword is a solitary affair. But again, they're ways of stretching our mind, of expanding and enhancing and amplifying what we have inside here, but in a pampering way. I'm sure you're definitely smiling now, thinking, doing a crossword, pampering. But it's something that you personally choose to do of your own volition. And of course, it exercises the brain. So that's the dual benefit. It's a pursuit that you like to do, and it keeps the brain well oiled, is the way I would describe it. But if we take it back a little and we recognize that, so distracting our brains gives it a rest, how does that work? Well, let me tell you a little bit. In my work as a counseling psychotherapist, I frequently come across people who have depression, people who have anxiety. And if we take an example of, here's a level playing ground, here's a normal good day. And with depression, you might feel a little bit sad, a little bit down, and you start to spiral down to the point that you might just want to put the duvet over your head. It's like you're walking in treacle. With the anxiety, you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit nervous, and suddenly there's a spiral up to, it could be a full-blown panic attack. So we go from here down and up. And some of us are even so exotic that we meet back in the middle. So there's a down and an up aspect to it. Our minds are very precious. We need them, but we don't need them to work too hard or to overtake and ignore our beautiful hearts. We are a holistic being, and so often we forget and we think the mind runs the entire show rather than our whole psyche. Our minds need rest. They need to be befriended by us. So this, if you will, like our personal computer in here is told, oh, you've been thinking great ideas. It's time to, particularly the logical part of our brain, as opposed to the creative part of our brain, because we have two brain lobes. And it is often said that the left part of our brain is the one that's logical, practical, analytical. And the right part of the brain is the one that's creative, taps into our subconscious, our dreams. And the two together work in harmony. But imagine one side is totally overloaded and the other side doesn't get to play. So, in effect, when we are personally pampering our brain, our mind, it's actually the creative side that we are engaging and letting the analytical side have a rest. You might have heard of the term rumination. Well, rumination is where literally the brain is overworking. If you've ever seen those cartoons where the characters have steam coming out of their ears and literally their brain is frying, how often can we feel like that with overwhelm? When we have too much to do, we've taken on too much. And our tiny little human ego brain is trying to say, enough, enough. Whereas if we have the personal pampering in there, specifically for the brain, then happy days, there is that sense of balance so that we don't get to the big, oh, it's all very zen like and calm, which is really important. Now, I have a tip for you, and I'm sure some of you know this already. There's a wonderful guy who came up, American, who came up with the what's called Happano Pano technique. Fabulous word, isn't it? Happano Pano. And it's a Hawaiian technique. And basically, what he did was realize that the Hawaiian, the big kahunas, as they call them, the shamans, if you will, realized that humans need four things. We need to be loved, we need to be thanked, we need to be offered forgiveness, and surely in life somebody has transgressed and we need somebody to say, I'm sorry. So the idea was that the Happano technique, and you're very welcome to Google it, Ho apostrophe Opono, and read all about it. It's fascinating founder, great story. And it's repeating the words, I love you, I thank you, I'm sorry, I forgive you. I love you, I thank you, I sorry, I forgive you. Now you can say it in any language you want. You can sing it, you can chant it, whatever feels right. And the principle behind it is it massages or pampers or gives self-care to your brain that might be overworked. But it also creates a change in the energy around perhaps the person you're talking to or the situation. Absolutely fantastic. And I like to use it when I'm in a situation or I'm in a tight spot, and maybe there's a little bit of crunchiness with me and the other person. And in my head, I love you, I thank you, I'm sorry, I forgive you. And it's really interesting. In a few moments, the situation kind of dissipates, everything kind of calms down, and there's a, oh, very interesting. So that might be something you consider. Or, and you might consider something like an affirmation, which is very personal. This lovely soothing sentence that you say in your mind to help you get over a difficult situation or to distract you. Um, One of the most famous ones was, every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Or, I am calm and I am relaxed. That's kind of one of the classic ones. And you might say to yourself, but if I'm in overwhelm, I'm not calm, I'm not relaxed. Ah, yes. But by soothingly talking to your brain, befriending, it's okay, shh, it's all right, it's okay, I'm calm, I'm relaxed. Then the brain and all the little nerve endings in the body gently ease down, bringing what you need. Works like a charm. And of course, I'm with you all the way. You might initially go, really not sure about this, but it works beautifully. And there's something else you can add in to the personal pampering for your brain, which I really like. And it's that element of almost, some people give their brain, their mind, depending what term goes best with you, a name like, oh, she's off again, or what's he like? And there's a kind of a, it could be the two sides of the brain, the cheeky inner critic, the magical inner coach, these two sides of our brain, one trying to, oh, be careful about that, or remember, did you made that mistake before, versus the other one going, yes, go for it, you can do this is something exciting and new, as a way to give ourselves positive self talk, to bring ourselves from high to a nice, low, calm, having a nice, normal day, or to bring ourselves up if we're feeling down, to come to a status quo, an equal flowing through our day in the best way possible. So there's some little techniques as how to pamper your brain, your mind, your ego. And now I'll flow to your soul. How do you personally pamper your soul? Now, there's a good one. Well, again, people have different notions as to what our soul is like. It's a very personal thing. And it could be that you talk in terms of your energy field, your vital essence, your spirit. Um, there are many different terms, your authentic self, your higher self. There's loads of different terms, but it's important to use the one that you like the best. And in this way, we can recognize that this very precious part of us needs to be nurtured and pampered. So, how might that happen? Well, again, I'll give you an example, tried and tested over many years. So, my soul is pampered and nourished when I am in nature. And not just walking out the hall door and I'm in nature, but if I am sitting, if I'm lolling about, I'm passively pampering myself. But I can also do it actively. So I might be walking, I might be cycling, I might be actively looking for something, a particular tree or a particular bird in the sky. And both work equally as well. Sometimes you might think, oh gosh, to relax my mind, to relax my soul, surely I need to be lying down with my eyes closed in a yoga class or on a massage table. Well, yes and no, because there's many ways. How often have you seen a magnificent sunset or a stunning full moon and you're literally there's awe in your voice, there's wonderment in your eyes. That's how we pamper our souls. But rather than it just being something random that might happen when you're out and you suddenly look up and notice the sunrise or the moonrise, how special if you can actually look at your diary or your phone and go, oh, I'm going to have a look at the grand stretch in the evenings that everybody's talking about. In the blink of an eye, it was dark practically at 4 o'clock, and now the sun is setting after 6. And there's that real sense, even in the mornings, whoa, it's much brighter than it was. So these are the times in the day, if you can, to be outside and to really feel those fresh spring energies. And when our heart is in a very peaceful place, because we've looked after ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and energetically, then we are open to really see what is around us, to really notice the signs that are always there to bring joy and gladness to our hearts. Because it's so easy to miss them when we get caught up in the minutiae of our day. There was a very funny experiment done here in Dublin, and it was by an advertising company. What they did was, we have a train called the DART, Dublin Area Rapid Transport. I'm so glad I remember that. And it ferries people right along the coast, the east coast of the city into town. And what this advertising company did was they found an owner of a white horse, beautiful white horse, and they asked, and I presume they checked in with the horse, but they basically put a unicorn like horn. So I suppose one of those hairbands the children's wear with a horn. And they put in the horse's mane sparkles, pinky yellowy sparkles, and on the horse's tail and on its fetlocks. And this horse was in the field right beside the DART station for an hour at rush hour. And not one person noticed. Not one person. And when the people got off the train, there were, I suppose, people doing a survey saying, did you notice anything different about your journey this morning? No, no, no. And what was really sweet was they were filming the people on the DART and they were all, and nobody noticed, not one. And these would have been hundreds of people. But they did film a little one going to school. This child, can you imagine walking by a field and seeing a unicorn in the field? It was so sweet. And, we can be like those people in the DART, or we can be like the little one with her eyes on, skipping along to school, and she sees the unicorn. And, oh my gosh, magic does happen. And that can gladden our hearts, lift our Celtic souls, and bring a whole new wonderment and awareness to our day. I like to call it a soul moment. That one special moment in your day. And of course, What happens is when you get used to personal pampering, when you look for those soul moments, it means that there's more than one. You come across them quite frequently. And you might go, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. That's my soul moment. And then by 2 o'clock, oh, no, that's my soul moment. But hey, you could even have more later on. It's an absolute pleasure to go through this and to see how you can bring that very personal element. I invite you to sit with your feet on the ground, close your eyes, and ask yourself, how do I personally pamper myself? What do I do? Or what would I like to do? Just note what pops into your head. And when you realize, oh, I do that and I do that, well done. And if you don't do anything, no worries. Now is your time to dream in what you would like to do. And perhaps I've had the opportunity to give you some ideas in my examples, my own personal examples. What do you do? What would you like to try as a way to pamper yourself? And when you know, slowly blink open your eyes. Have a little stretch. Nice big stretch. And you might, if you have a pen handy, jot down what that might be. A really good tip is to schedule it in. So it might be that you grab your phone, or you might have a diary, whatever it might be, and you look at your day and you go, okay, do. So often we write down, I'm going to meet so and so, I've got that Zoom meeting, oh, I need to get the shopping, I need to get this. So our day is all ordered by tasks that we need to do. But do you actually write down anything for you? Now, some of us might pop in, oh, yoga class, or meeting so and so for coffee, or it might be guitar lesson, and they would all come under it. But do you ever write down in your diary, long bath, power shower, watch the sunrise, watch the moon set? Probably not. But why not? Doesn't it make so much sense to put these into our day? Yes. And that means that I like to think that when I'm doing these things, that I'm standing on the shoulders of my grandmothers and my great grandmothers and the women who couldn't do that before for a variety of reasons, but maybe they dreamed it in. And I'm going, thank you. Thank you. Yes, for all of us, I'm doing this now. I'm seeing what is to be seen. And yet, I wonder if I could have those conversations with my great grandmothers. They might go, sure, Karen, when we were doing the laundry, when we were out looking after the kids, the children, there was chat, there was community, there was sharing. And that was a form of pampering. And sometimes you young women don't have that, not as readily. And they'd be true. And they might also say, well, and the food we had, good, proper farm food, farm to fork, all organic. We didn't have to worry about trans fats. We didn't have to worry about sugar in this. Sure, there wasn't any. So the food that they got was nourishing, perhaps more so. They didn't have the temptation of those treats that we might have to look away from. And that's a very good point. Personal pampering is about loving yourself, choosing what you like to do, and keep going until you do find what warms the cockles of your heart. There has to be something so that you feel invigorated, renewed, refreshed, relaxed, and ready for whatever life holds your way. I hope that has given you some ideas or food for thought, as they say. Enjoy.